Hello everybody, it's Hater, and the exotic Gyrfalcon's Hauberk is nothing new when it comes to powerful void builds. Ever since its release back in Season of the Plunder, it easily cemented itself as one of the best exotics in the game, allowing hunters to constantly deal ridiculous amounts of damage, to the point that even the mere mention of its name would spiral any PvP player into a traumatic frenzy. But of course though, with every meta exotic comes its inevitable nerf. In Gyrfalcon's, well, it was no different. Eventually, its perk got gutted so bad that it became a shell of its former self. Fast forward a bit, and now with the release of Lightfall, I'm here to tell you guys something. Between the new fragments and the overhaul to the mod system, Gyrfalcon's is back on top and it's better than ever. All of which begins with its updated perk, See Me Feel Me. Your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. This is going to be the foundation of the entire build, because not only are these volatile rounds going to intrinsically deal with barrier champions, but we're going to be able to make them do a lot more by giving us orbs of power, infinite healing with Devour, bonus void weapon damage, and borderline infinite volatile rounds. Now moving on over to our subclass, for the main abilities that we want to use, I prefer using Gambler's Dodge. No real reason here, I just prefer it for the faster cooldown. As for our grenade though, we're going to want to use Vortex. We'll be mainly using this as a debuff tool for later. As for our aspects though, we're using both Stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step. Vanishing Step is very simple. It's going to make our dodge ability make us invisible. This is a great way to jumpstart the build when we're using Gyrfalcons. Whenever we go into any kind of engagement, we go invis, and we have volatile rounds at the ready. Stylish Executioner, on the other hand, is going to make us invisible also, this time whenever we kill anything that is affected by void debuffs. As you can imagine, this is the bread and butter to Gyrfalcons. Any moment in time that we're invisible, we come out with volatile rounds. We kill things with said volatile rounds, and it's going to make us invisible again to refresh the timer. In other words, this is our source for infinite volatile rounds. Next up though, for our fragments, starting from the left, we're using Echo of Cessation. This is the new fragment that's going to make enemies volatile whenever we get finisher kills, which is kind of pointless when Gyrfalcon's already does that. The real reason why we're using it is for the second half, where volatile enemies drop void breaches whenever they die. If you're not familiar, void breaches are the exact same thing as fire sprites, but they're going to give us class ability energy instead. These are going to be playing a humongous role in the build, because not only will they give us our class ability faster, but we're going to be able to make them do much more. An Echo of Starvation is that much more. It's going to make orbs of power, and void breaches now grant Devour. In other words, every time we come out of invisibility with volatile rounds, we kill something, it gives us a void breach. We pick it up, we have 10 seconds of Devour, bringing us back to max HP. Kills after that are also going to fully refresh Devour's timer. Then to enhance this even further, we're also using Echo of Persistence to increase the duration of void buffs applied to us, aka both our invisibility and Devour. Then finally, to top everything off, we're using Echo of Undermining. This is going to cause all of our void grenades to weaken enemies, meaning they take 15% more damage. Because this is a void debuff, this also applies to Stylish Executioner, meaning we can jumpstart the build in a pinch even if our dodge or smoke bomb are down. Now that we got the subclass out of the way, let's talk about weapons. And for the exotic weapon of choice that we're going to use in this build, it's going to be Wavesplitter. I'm sure you guys have heard about it over the past few weeks, but truth be told, it's absolutely insane. Its exotic perk is going to rotate damage modes over time, starting at level 1, which is its base damage, level 2 at 32%, then level 3 at 68%. As for the main reason we're using it is for its other perk, where if we pick up an Orb of Power, it's going to lock Wavesplitter at level 3 for 10 seconds, starting with an automatic reload. With how often we're going to be creating Orbs of Power, we're almost always going to be locked into the supercharged state permanently. And because we're able to stack surge mods on top of this, we're going to make Wavesplitter constantly deal 105% more damage and have borderline permanent volatile rounds. Of course though, with Wavesplitter being in your energy slot, it's going to open up your heavy, and what I personally like to use in my heavy slot is a Void LMG. The one I use the most is my crafted retrofit escapade. It comes with enhanced 4 times the charm and enhanced frenzy. Of course, depending on the situation, I will swap this out with enhanced target lock. But man, let me tell you guys, this thing absolutely shreds champions. I can't count the amount of times I went into Master Lost sectors and even the Master Nightfall before GMs came out and just shredded champions with this retrofit escapade. Something about the volatile rounds, the void surge, and the target lock, it just absolutely shreds. But of course, if you don't have anything like this, there are more weapons you can use. You could use something like a crafted commemoration from Deepstone Crypt, corrective measure from Vault of Glass, maybe even a crafted one when it becomes craftable in the future. Maybe you don't want to use an LMG, you could use something like the Taipan Linear, the Red Herring or Royal Entry rocket launcher. And yes, if you're curious, Leviathan's Breath is also a great option for this build. All you would have to do is factor in for an energy weapon. I personally like using the Velez X, and you could be weaving in and out of the shadows, absolutely shredding champions with this bow. But to keep things moving, let's talk about the artifact, and there are some mods I do want you guys to pick up from here. The first thing is Authorized Mods Grenade and Void. This is going to heavily cut down on the price of those mods when we get into the armor section. Then you're going to want to grab Volatile Flow, because yo dog, we heard you like volatile rounds, so we put some volatile rounds on your volatile rounds. Now you got volatile rounds. After that, you're going to want to pick up Shatter Orbs, so any matching shield you break will spawn an Orb of Power. Bricks from Beyond, so defeating powerful combatants with a void weapon increases your chance of spawning heavy ammo. Then for a little added extra, if you're using Retrofit Escapade, you could stack on Origin Hones and Defiant Armory because it's a part of the Ambush Origin traits. Finally though, moving on over to the armor, and to start off, for our stats, we're going to want to dump everything into both resilience and mobility so that we have 30% damage resistance and our dodge as fast as possible. From there, we're going to want to try to get as much discipline as we can get, and then the rest of the stats can be anything of your choosing. Starting off over at the helmet though, we're going to be using a Void Siphon mod, so rapid void weapon kills will spawn an Orb of Power. This is going to jumpstart the build, giving us Devour and Volatile rounds. Then we're going to use Ashes to Assets, so if our grenade gets a kill, it gives us super energy. And then for a little added extra, I like using a heavy ammo finder for my Void LMG. Except though, moving on over to the arms, we're using Bolstering Detonation and Focusing Strike. These are going to make the cooldown on our class ability even faster whenever we damage enemies with our grenade or our melee. Then for the mod at the very end, we're using a Firepower so that if we get kills with our grenades, it also spawns an Orb of Power. Moving on over to the Gyrfalcons, and we're using a singular Charged Up so that we can increase our maximum stacks of armor charge by 1. Then I also like to use the extra space for 2 Void Reserves. If you want, you can change them out for another Charged Up. Next up though, moving on over to the boots, and this is where all 3 of our Void Weapon Surges are going to be. Then finally, moving on over to our class item, we're going to be using a Reaper mod, so after we go invisible with our dodge, our next weapon kill is guaranteed to spawn an Orb of Power. This is yet again a great way to jumpstart the build. As for the mod next to it, it's going to be a time dilation, so our armor charge stacks decay slower. Then finally, for the mod at the very end, I like to use a bomber just to cut down on our grenade cooldown. Overall though guys, I think that's going to be it. Gyrfalcons is an absolute menace right now, and definitely something to pick up for your endgame builds. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you want to copy the build, there's also going to be a dim loadout link down in the description for your ease of use. And also, while you're at it, if you enjoy the video, the best way to show support is by giving it a like and subscribing so you'll never miss out on a brand new build video. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye bye.